Okay, so hello. I'm Shelby Klein, and I will be doing my TED Talk or my Genius Hour. So today we will be talking about how much sleep teenagers should be getting a night. So the average amount of sleep teens, like in high school, should be getting a night is like 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep. But most of us know that we do not get that at all. So my Genius Hour will be focusing around the science of psychology, consciousness, learning, thinking language, and intelligence. So first I just want to talk about some facts about sleep and things that go into how sleep affects how you learn in the morning, how sleep affects how you drive, how sleep affects your just a mental, your body and just your mental health and your physical health, because we all know that sleep is like charging your phone. Like, you are the phone and sleep is the charger, and everyone needs it. You can go longer without water and food than you can without sleep. It's a proven thing. You need sleep, and most of us teens are not getting enough of it. So the few facts that I want to go over first are school should start later. First of all, that is what needs to happen. School needs to start later, because if we have the amounts of homework, if we have the amounts of homework that we normally do, 1 to 2 hours every night, but we also have extracurriculars and jobs, and we don't even get to bed till around 11, and school starts at 7:25. Most of us wake up at around 6. I don't. I wake up at 6:50 because I live right across the street from the high school, but most high schoolers wake up around 6 to get to our high school, and that means they normally get around 6 to 7 hours of sleep, and that's on a good night. So okay, back to the facts. So medical professors, middle and high school teachers say that school should start later. So this isn't just from a student's opinion. I found this on a website. The website is, in case you're wondering, it is educationdegree.com. So it has been a lot of medical professors and students and teachers say that school should start later. Not only for the students' benefit, but also for the teachers' benefit, and so many other things. Next, it says many students end up sleep deprived, which is true. I am walking in the hallway and I pass by so many kids who just look dead, like walking zombies, because I'm guessing they got 4 hours of sleep that night. Either it was because of homework, their phone, they just couldn't sleep, they just looked like walking zombies. So I would say that half the kids in our school are sleep deprived. That's just me. That's not a fact. It's my opinion. So we already went over about how the average amount of sleep people need per night, which is 8.5 to 9.5 hours. Those who don't get enough sleep face a number of health risks that can have serious consequences on their mental and physical well-being. So not only can sleep affect your mental awareness and your focus and your reflexes and all of that, it can also affect your physical state. So you can just be drowsy, always tired, not your appetite isn't as good, you're just not fueled for the day, and it just keeps getting weaker and weaker by the more hours you add on of less sleep, if that makes any sense. Next, as far back as 1999, a member of Congress introduced a resolution to make school start late, which has obviously worked for some schools, but not our school particularly, which hopefully it will sometime soon. Obviously I won't be here, but for the future students, I hope that they get enough sleep so they're able to focus in class. So I have a quote from Zoe Lofgren, who is a representative in our Congress. Not anymore, but was a representative. Her quote says, "Over time, sleep deprivation leads to serious consequences for academic achievement, social behavior, and the health and society of our nation's youth." So, again, sleep doesn't only affect your academic, it affects your social cues and your future and your safety, because safety is everything. And if I wake up at 6 in the morning and I only had 2 hours of sleep last night, you expect me to drive? That is that is so unsafe because I'm obviously not at my heightened awareness. I'm not focused. I'm tired. My eyes are loopy and dark and dragging, and the lights are bright. The headlights coming at me are so bright I can't see. Like, it's just not safe for anyone, not even just students, teachers and like adults and people who work. Like, it's just not safe. Next it says, physical education teachers think school should start later because of extracurricular activities. So they think that school should start around like 8 a.m. and go till around like 3 p.m. and then extracurriculars should start at 4 p.m., which I don't have a problem with because then we get a full night's rest of sleep. And I think we should also try and shorten our extracurricular activities. I understand some practices need to be late at night. Like, I know boys lacrosse practices 7 to 9, and that is late. But I understand because they don't have like field time, so they have to wait till the very last seconds of the day to get their practice in. But that's where I also think we like have a school problem, where we should just get another practice field or something, or let other people practice on the practice field so everyone's like extracurricular ends by 7 and doesn't start at 7. Like, when I was in diving season, my practices went till 10:30, which was really draining on my body, and like it was just really hard to go home and like get my homework done and then go to sleep and then wake up and do it all over again. So I think that also plays into this conversation. Students who get less than 8 hours of sleep at night are 2 to 3 more likely to get injured. So obviously, if you don't get enough sleep at night, you're not fully rejuvenated, you're not fully fueled, when you're not charged, you're not ready to go for the day, you're just like slow and laggy, and obviously your reflexes aren't like on point, so you need to definitely, like, you definitely have a higher risk of like getting injured if you're not like at your game or on point that day, because like that's just common sense. Driving that early can be dangerous, which we already talked about. I just want to specify like the safety of our students, the safety of everyone in the world, and like driving that early is not safe at all. Teens are also the root of all like traffic accidents, even like in the daytime, like after school. Like, so many kids get in car accidents either because of their phone or they're just like not focused. But think of that, like that is times 10 in the morning when you just woke up like 15 minutes ago and you're rushing to school and your eyes are like barely open. Like, that's just so unsafe. I cannot stress that enough. Studies have also linked students who don't get enough sleep to drug and alcohol abuse and higher suicide rates. So if you are up in the middle of the night, you can't fall asleep, your mind just starts thinking and rambling and going on, and sometimes it can bring you to fun places, sometimes it can take you to dark places, and that's where like the suicidal thoughts like come in, I'm guessing, through the suicide rates. And for drug and alcohol abuse, many people think if we change ways, it would be expensive and cause confusion, but that is not true. It really wouldn't be any more expensive than school is now, and I don't think it would cause confusion either, because we change schedules like every semester, we get new schedules each year. Like, it would just be like another thing to us. Like, I don't think it'd be that confusing. It is hard for people to change. Like, some people aren't really used to conforming to change, and some people just don't like change. They just want to stick to what it is, and like they don't want to change it at all. They hate change. But I think change is good, and it switches things up in your life, and it gives you new like thoughts and new priorities, and like it just lets you like see a different perspective into the world. So I think change is really good, even if you hate it. Since school attendance and federal dollars are directly tied together, it's in the school's best interest to keep the attendance like up. So say you have a lot of kids who don't come to school, that means your federal dollars are going to be so much more expensive. Your school is going to be expensive. But say you have a lot of people coming to school, like everyone comes every single day, everyone's committed, everyone's there to learn and work hard because they're energized and they're ready to go for the day and they had a full night of sleep, then your money would go down because school attendance is connected to your federal dollars. So later start times increase attendance by 15% in Ohio, which is also found on the website that I mentioned earlier, in the District of Ohio. So that's really good. Studies have also proven that when students get more sleep, their test scores go up. So say, that's why before you take a big test, like the SAT or the ACT, everyone's like, get a good night's rest, eat food, because you want to be fully fueled for those long tests, those long time-consuming, draining tests. Like, you need to be fueled for those. And when you start at 6 a.m. and go to bed at like 11, you're just not completely fueled. And it just like isn't a good situation for anyone. So even the CDC put out a statement saying that no school should start earlier than 8:30 to give students a chance to learn at their maximum capacities. So if you really want like your students to focus and learn and be committed to their learning, the CDC says you shouldn't start till 8:30, which can be kind of unrealistic for some schools, but that is just what the professionals say. So next I would like to talk about my experiment. My experiment was I talked with 4 of my friends, and I asked them how many hours or minutes they spent that night on homework and how many hours of sleep they got. So for subject A, on Sunday, she got 8 hours of sleep and no homework. So subject A was my prime subject. She did really good with getting a full night's rest, and for some reason she didn't have any homework this week, so that was really good for her. But throughout the week she got 8 hours, 8.5 hours, and her lowest amount of sleep was 7.5 hours, which is not in the full range, but it's pretty close, so I'm really proud of her for getting that. My subject B, she got into 7.5, so hers was 7.5, and 8 hours of sleep, like on the average, and the most time she spent on homework was an hour. Subject C, however, was definitely my outlier. She was really struggling. She's in a lot of AP classes. She has so much homework. She just has a lot going on with her life, and it's not just homework. It's not just school. It's family stuff. It's so many more things that you have to put into consideration that I know a lot of like schools don't really do. So she had not a lot of sleep. Her highest amount of sleep was 7 hours, and her lowest amount of sleep was 3. And one night she spent 7 hours on homework. So that is right when you get home from school till like late at night, because she just has so many AP classes. It takes her a while to do things. She's not the brightest, and that's okay. We can't expect all these smart kids to get their homework lickety split done. Like, that's just not realistic. And subject D, my 4th subject, she fell a little bit under the average. She did 7.5 hours of sleep a night, and the most time she spent on homework was an hour and a half. So pretty average basically. But I just wanted to conduct that experiment to show kids in our school and how what they try to do and go through. So next I want to talk about my driving questions. So my driving question was, how many hours of sleep do Loveland students get per night? And to be honest, from my experiment and from what I did with my subjects, most get right below the average, like 6 and 7 hours of sleep, which doesn't sound like a lot. So like, oh, 1 more hour and they'd have the average, they're fueled. But that's not it. Like, 1 hour of sleep can change so much between if you have a great day and you're focused and committed and ready to learn to, I'm distracted, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be here, I'm so tired. So I would say Loveland students don't get the average number of hours of sleep they need per night. My second driving question was, on average, how many hours of sleep do Loveland High School teachers get per night? And to be honest, I asked a couple teachers their thoughts on this. I'm not going to name names because, confidentiality. But they do not get a lot of sleep either, because they also have kids of their own that they're also helping with homework. They also have to grade things. They have a lot of stuff going on in their lives too, and we can't just throw that to the side. They're a part of our high school. They're a part of our community. We need to think about them too. My third driving question was, what are the long-term effects of not getting enough sleep? The long-term effects of not getting enough sleep are mental illnesses. You cannot, like, you will have a hard time, like, having an appetite. There's just so many things that go into sleep, and if you don't get enough of it, your body's just, like, shutting down, slowly starts to shut down. So my driving question number 4 was, on average, how many students get in a car crash on their way to school? And this was a lot more than expected. It was like about 30% when I looked it up on that same website that I mentioned earlier. And I did not expect it to be that high, because normally your school's only like 5 minutes away. But then I started to realize, oh, it's early in the morning. Oh, we just woke up. Oh, half of us only got 4 hours of sleep that night. So that is how that happens. And my last driving question number 5, is how many hours do Loveland School high school teachers of homework, like, give of homework per night? And I asked the teachers, and they gave me different answers than the students, but that's okay because everyone's different. So some of the teachers just said like 15 to 30 minutes per night, but I know some other like AP classes were like 30 to 60 minutes a night, and that's a lot of homework. But then again, I looked at my subjects and how long they took to do their homework, and most of them was only like an hour and a half, or none to an hour and a half, in between that range, which I think is a decent amount of homework for all subjects, but not for one subject. So that concludes my Genius Hour and why I think school should start later. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.